Onlookers could only catch a glimpse of the bride, the Honourable Patricia Mountbatten, as she drove in her car right up to the Abbey door. Wearing a beautiful dress of silver gold brocade and a veil made from the tulle worn by Lady Mountbatten at her own wedding, the bride enters on the arm of her very distinguished father. After the ceremony, the bride with her husband, Captain Lord Brabourne, walked past the Guard of Honour formed by the bridegroom's regiment, the Coldstream Guards, and Petty Officer Holder presents a lucky horseshoe. It was a shame that the weather had done its worst, but nobody seemed to take any notice of this. It was far too happy an occasion to be marred by rain or mud. This is Movietone. Lionel Gamlin reporting. Cardiff was the scene of the recent important meeting of miners, and the proceedings naturally included some full-throated singing. But the real business of the rally was the pungent address by the Minister of Fuel and Power, Mr Emmanuel Shinwell.
Well, if some of the newspaper proprietors and their editors and the writers of leading articles aren't satisfied with what the miners are doing, we're short of labour, let them come and dig some coal themselves. But my friends, this great industrial and social experiment will not fail. We need at least 700,000 men in the industry. And not merely 700,000 men on the colliery books. We want them effectively employed. And not only employed, but their labour's used to the greatest possible advantage. With declining manpower, we must avail ourselves of every man in the industry, not for 2 or 3 shifts a week, but for every shift of the week. The responsibility is on you as much as it is on the coal board of the government or the National Union of Mine Workers.
He ended by saying, nationalisation will succeed because it must succeed. When the Goldwyn girls, over here from Hollywood, made their appearance at the Britain Can Make It exhibition, they wore clothes designed by Britain. It was a nice gesture on their part, and the picture proves how well British clothes and American girls go together. Now for British mannequin going to the States. Georgie Clifford, Grace Woods, Jane Lynch, Margaret Allworthy, Morna Howard and Margaret Mullins. As for the fashions they're displaying, well, I'm quite certain most of you are better judges than I can claim to be. But here are a few that strike me as being particularly attractive. In addition to the now well-established fact that Britain can make it, the picture leaves no doubt whatever that Britain can wear it. And it is good to see fashion coming back into its own again, quite apart from the export value of British design and display. It's a real pleasure to get away from utility, a depressing word which could never possibly be applied to styles like these. QE returned from her maiden peacetime voyage with many famous people from the film world on board, to say nothing of their luggage. Meet Mr and Mrs Reginald Gardner with Mr Eric Johnston. With his wife, Pat O'Brien, here like the rest for the Royal Command film performance. Joan Bennett and her husband, Walter Wanger. Dorothy Malone, the new film star. And here's Ray Milland and his wife. And the president of the Cinematograph Trade Benevolent Fund, Mr Reginald Bromhead, greets some of the stars. My colleague, Leslie Mitchell, seen talking to Francis Day, later interviewed Mr Eric Johnston, president of the Motion Picture Association of America.
I'm here to investigate expanding trade. This great ship is more than a luxury liner. It's a symbol of renewed and expanding trade throughout the world. For it is only through expanding commerce and industry that we can supply jobs for men and women, raise standards of living throughout the world, and ensure peace.
Well, I hope that your interest in the political and economic situation in Europe isn't distracting your mind from films. You're very closely associated, after all.
Why, of course not. We've seen many fine British pictures in America. We expect to see many more in the future. For the British and American films are always in the vanguard of expanding commerce and trade.
Bradman lost the toss.